Welcome to Blend's Localization Leaders Podcast, where we speak to industry leaders who are paving the way for advancements in localization and global language operations. In today's episode, we're joined by Paula Manzur, Language AI Strategy Lead at Booking.com, one of the world's leading international online travel agencies. Welcome back to the Localization Leaders Podcast. I'm Corinne, Blend's content lead, and I'm so happy to introduce today Paula Manzur, Language AI Strategy Lead at Booking.com. Paula, it's great to meet you.
Likewise.
Awesome. So we can get started just by getting to know you a little bit better, getting to know your journey better. So if you don't mind just telling us a little bit about, where you're from, how did you first get involved with the language industry, and what led you to where you are today at Booking.com?
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Corinne. It's great to be here. I actually started in the language industry as a translator myself. I'm an Argentinian Spanish speaker, and I always had a passion for the English language. And one day at home, I just decided to translate a short story that I had at home in a book. And so I said, this is what I want to do. I studied translation, got my degree, and not many people know this actually, but I'm also an interpreter.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I've never actually had a job for interpretation, but I am an interpreter. And as many other folks in the industry, just after a few years, honestly, of translating user manuals for home appliances or, being pressured with deadlines, I got very curious about the other side, like all those mechanisms behind the deadlines. And my localization career really kicked off as a localization lead or engineer on the agency side, on an LSP, a big LSP. And that's where I got closer and closer to language technology, like from CAT tools, TMSs, quality assurance tools, to machine translation. Eventually I discovered that machine translation was one of my passions, thanks to a former colleague, John Ritzorf, who is also a professor. And that's when I said, for the second time, I said, this is it. This is what I want to do. And now, of course, we have neural machine translation and also LLMs, right, for the task of translation. And that's what my role is about at Booking.com. I'm part of a really big localization team, and I'm responsible for designing the strategy, mainly on how we use automated translations for which content types. So mainly my passion, right? So language technology. So I'm very happy about it.
Wow, that's so cool. I wonder, when you start out studying as a linguist and studying English, did you ever think that it's feels like it's two different sides of the brain, right? Like the technological side and then the creative and language side. Did you ever expect to end up really falling in love with the tech side of localization and actually making that your career?
Yeah, well, no, not really, to be honest. Like when I started as a translator, I just did it because I love the English language,
Right.
as I said. But I really didn't want to change the world, but now I feel like I can contribute with something small. Like, for example, I like working towards the bias in machine translation. It's full of biases. AI is full of, LLMs are full of biases. But honestly, no, I didn't expect to have a role so close to AI, mainly because I'm not a machine learning engineer or, a computational linguist, which maybe I should have studied that. But I think that the roles that I have, like the ones that I have, is how we bridge the gap, really. So on there's the application world, I always like to say, and a research world, and that's they're not very well connected sometimes. So yeah.
No,
That's what can I say.
It's important. It's so important right now to have, also the creative thinkers be a big part of this tech forward, because like you're saying, like all those biases and stuff, like it's not going away. AI and machines not going away. So to at least improve it, and it's amazing.
Honestly, it wasn't like a smooth transition to AI because really you need to prove yourself. Like again, not being a computational linguist or an engineer, but at the same time, it's like you have an understanding of how these systems work, right? Because you study them, you work with them all the time, and you work with engineers and you work with linguists. So I'm a linguist at the core, but honestly, I think that you need to make a little extra effort to explain the why to engineers, like why this is important, why do we need this, why consistent, reliable data is important. So, but yeah, other than that, it's rewarding to work in this field, to be honest. I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. So can you maybe share some more insights into how you guys at booking.com, how your team is leveraging AI and its language strategy? Have you had any specific tools or initiatives that you feel have really made an impact, made a difference?
Yeah, well, I can name a few. I think Booking.com has been leveraging AI and in the sort of a language strategy for many years now, because we trained our own empty engines in the past. Now we don't maintain them anymore. We use an external empty provider, but we built a very big empty cache. So we have a lot of we reuse a lot of machine translations, and that's very good for savings. But in relation to LLMs and what I like to call this AI agentic hype, this year we have an objective, which is to embed AI in localization, right? And a very important aspect for Booking, I would say, is experimentation. So we're putting a lot of experiments out there with Gen AI, but the curiosity is that even before an experiment goes live, it goes through an AI council. So we need to go through a lot of, approvals, questions. The AI council reviews the idea for the use case, and then they review it from a legal or security perspective. And once all that is approved, the experiment goes live. But it first needs to be really proven valid or impactful in English. So even before it becomes, localized or multilingual, it needs to work live in English. So Gen AI, English first. Our source language is British English. And then if the experiment is successful, everything goes well, like, I don't know, they decided to change or to add a summary in the platform about guest reviews. Okay, if it works in English, then okay, we expand to other languages. But not generating multilingual content, but localizing. So using translation, of course, either automated or a hybrid model. That's one part of how we are leveraging AI. I would say the experiments are very, very important. But we always evaluate LLMs using linguists. So we actually send a human evaluation, and they are still the golden reference for us. So before anything goes live for localization, it needs to go through a human evaluation.
Yeah, it makes sense. So that kind of leads me to my next question about thinking about the future. How do you see the relationship between language and AI evolving? Where do you see the role of human fitting into it?
That's a very good question, actually. I've been hearing a lot about, like keeping humans at the core or humans in the loop. But really, if you're going to keep linguists just doing always the same type of edits, like, changing a comma for a full stop or a straight bracket for a curly bracket, it's like you're not utilizing the skills that linguists have, the creativity, right? So there's a way that we can automate all that. Like there are good examples if you're more like a company like that builds more, that you have the capacity to build an LLM or train, or you are a company that you want to buy, there are good companies like, I don't know, Taos or Motherfront, in which you can automate, use quality estimation and automated post editing. And then linguists can really focus on more nuanced, cultural nuance, nuances, or quality, consistency. So that's where I see really the future will be, with linguists and AI really focusing on what matters, or what makes sense. And I think it will be up to all of us to determine what that makes sense means, right? Because I don't think it's, it's decided or, set in stone. We still need to define that.
Yeah. And do you feel like, you mentioned that what you're doing now is you're still very much localizing, even with AI. I guess it also depends on the kind of use case of the content, when it comes to, summarizing reviews and things like that. But do you see things shifting more towards multilingual content creation? Or do you think localization
Well,
will always remain relevant?
yeah, that's a great question that I also have at the moment. It's like open question. I think for multilingual creation to happen, you really need to also take like legal aspects into consideration, because might have different content. Like if you publish raw AI or multilingual AI directly without any human review, then you might end up having different content actually across languages, and it can lead to really brand inconsistencies. So I don't think we're quite there yet. We still have a source. And like I said, first experiments go live in English. They've proven successful. Then we localize. I'm really eager to start experimenting with multilingual generation instead of asking an LLM to provide a translation. But we're still not quite there, I would say. It might be the future, but after we go through all the legal aspects of having different content across languages. But I think that's still, we wouldn't be able to avoid that, right? Because content is already being more personalized than before, and AI helps a lot with that. So maybe we already have different content out there. Yeah.
I guess in a
it's
way,
really
I guess
interesting.
it's finding that balance and finding what's anchoring the content to be consistent, and what's kind of, where do you have room to play, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
So we know obviously that many companies are using AI to help them, scale their localization efforts. What do you think is the biggest mistake companies do when trying to leverage AI, and how can they avoid it?
Yeah, honestly, I think that's well, the first mistake that always comes to my mind when talking about localization, also in general, not so specifically to AI, but like always treating localization as an afterthought. I think we still haven't learned that lesson yet. So whenever content is created, it has to be created in consideration that it might be or it will be localized or become global. So I think we need to really get closer to the content creation process. Actually, not close. We need to be part of it. That's something we need to change. And now with Gen AI, that you can create content or together with humans or copywriters, like for example, we can, I don't know about UX, it could be a little bit riskier, but creating content with Gen AI, we will have a massive explosion of content, right? We have massive content being created. And you also need to know that it's not a human creating that content. So then how that is going to affect the translation and how you're going to do the translation. Is it AI with an AI or human? So So yeah, that's the first, I would say, mistake. And I can actually, I have another one, which is actually always seeing localization as a cost center instead of a driving growth. Like, I think we need to shift that, or a mindset needs to change about that. And probably we need to report more on the revenue, or how we bring success to, growth to the business, other than just reporting how many words we translated per year.
Right.
Like, it's moving away from that. And the way to do that, I think, is just tracking the revenue that we bring, if it is possible. Probably through experimentation is the only way. Exposing, like, there was one experiment that was done here at Booking a few years ago, that was a blackout experiment. So actually we turned off a few languages for the platform for a certain period. It was very, no, I cannot share the specifics, unfortunately, because it's confidential for now. I hope one day it goes out there. But it was really, like, mind blowing, because you could see the impact of not having those languages live in the platform, right? You could see the impact that was very significant. So it's, I think, the holy grail, right? To be able to prove the ROI of localization, the value of localization with any specific, like with any solution. If you use automated translation, or if we use the hybrid model, you still prove it, right? The value that it brings to the business. And that's what I think we need to report on more. Like, we report progress through the growth that we bring, and maybe user feedback, like how the customer sees the platform, experiences the platform, instead of, wondering about the minor accuracy error. I mean, I appreciate the traditional QA, of course, is valuable, but we don't have a way to quality assess based on the customer's experience. We don't have typologies for that. They are not close to what the user needs. And that's, I think, it's a big mistake. Like, as an industry mistake, we're still not there. We don't have them. So I think it's up to each professional setting or company to decide it and to actually do it.
Absolutely. I loved that example. That's so smart. I've never heard of a company doing that. That's brilliant. We know that the tech it's advancing quickly, and everywhere you go, you're hearing about AI, LinkedIn, and conferences, and it's everywhere, and it can be overwhelming. Do you have any favorite resources or recommendations for ways that content professionals, localization professionals, they can learn and stay up to date on, what they really need to know about AI and their craft, how it plays into it?
Yeah, I can share what it works for me because, I don't know. Like, if you're a professional and you're working in a company, a professional setting, it is hard to stay up to date because you're such in practical mode. You're working, you're experimenting, you're implementing strategy or whatever. So the best way I found is to try to attend at least one or two conferences a year, or events that we all gather to share, like in localization. And you can really immerse yourself in the topics, discuss with colleagues, and network with people. But that's why I say one or two conferences, because the technology is one thing now, but then it might change in 6 months, right? So we might be discussing the same topics, but with new technology or different angles, new tests. And it really takes time to do tests, right? But the only thing I noticed is that if you cannot attend in person, which is great, you should probably find something online or a webinar. Or what I've noticed is that you still need to pay. Nowadays, you need to pay for some of those, which is not great. That's why I think these type of resources, like this podcast or any other online webinars that are free, are really useful, and to share, like, learn from other professionals, learn from people. That's where I learn the most, connecting with people, not reading a paper. Of course, I read, I do research, but then I think when you discuss is where you get the most. So that's what I would recommend.
Yeah, and you can share from your experience and learn from others' experiences. It is the best way because also often we have the same problems, you know?
Yeah,
So it's nice to hear how other people are solving it.
yeah.
So yeah, okay, great, Paula. I think we can wrap things up with just a few rapid fire questions, just for
Okay.
fun. So what's your favorite language?
Well, it used to be English, but now it's Argentinian Spanish because I miss speaking my own language. I live abroad, so now
Where
it's
do you
Argentinian
live?
Spanish. I
In
live in
Europe.
Amsterdam.
Amsterdam.
Yeah, in Amsterdam. Yeah.
Nice. You like it?
Yeah, I do. Not the weather, but
Okay.
I do like the city. Yeah.
What's your favorite localization tool?
Um, I think it's just, Google Workspace, like Sheets, Docs.
Mm,
I tried many tools, but nothing beats a good old fashioned Google Sheet to stay
yeah,
organized. Yeah,
I'm also a big
that's what I
fan.
use the most. Yeah.
And where's your favorite place you've ever traveled to?
I would say it's Pipa. It's a city in the north of Brazil. It's really beautiful.
Cool.
Yeah,
And,
paradise.
and what's the best localization advice you've ever received?
That not everything needs to be Shakespeare.
Mm, it's a good one.
I always remember it like, yeah, when we discuss quality, what is quality? What are the quality threshold? What is good enough, not good enough?
Yeah,
So I always remember, yeah.
it's easy to get hung up on that stuff. And who is your localization role model?
Well, yeah, I'd like to mention my mentor, Eva Gross. She is the director of technical program management for localization for Toast, based in the US.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I really admire her. She's not only very knowledgeable, but she also always finds the time to help people, help mentees. So that's really valuable. I think we should always help each other.
Absolutely. And lastly, which brand is your localization crush?
Yeah, I think crush is a little bit of a stretch. I wouldn't have a crush, but like, for example, as an expat living in the Netherlands, I think the ABN AMRO, which is a bank
Mm-hmm.
website, and how they localize their products into from Dutch into English is very good. Like I have a very good experience with the app, and then I can also mention Uber. I've experienced both the app in Spanish and in English,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's a very seamless experience. It's very good. So, yeah, I know a little bit about how Uber localizes. I know nothing about how ABN AMRO localizes, but yeah, both are good.
But it's good as a user, and that's what
Yeah,
matters.
yeah, exactly. That's how
Okay.
how I experience it.
Thank you so much, Paula. It was so great speaking with you, and I feel like I learned a lot, and I look forward to sharing this with our listeners.
Yeah, thank you so much, Corinne, for listening and yeah, inviting me.